You know, before making this video, I was thinking to myself, should I really do this to myself? Should I really do this to myself? Because I already know there are going to be people out there who are going to disagree, who are going to call me crazy, going to call me delusional, who are going to call me greedy. I think that's the main word that I might be called, greedy. Because, when it comes to supporting this beautiful club, FC Barcelona, I expect the highest of highest levels when it comes to every single one of my players. So my expectations might be a little bit too high for certain individuals, but hey, that's just the standard I put my team and my players at. I'm sure a lot of people agree, but hey, that's my opinion, right? And especially living in an era where it's all about GA. We're living in an era now where it's all about GA. You can't go on Twitter, you can't go anywhere online in the world of football without seeing GA, 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 GA. If a person's putting up good GA so far in the season, they're considered the best, they're considered the top player, team in the season, whatever the case may be. It's all about GA nowadays. Everyone looks at that. And that's something that we're going to definitely look at when it comes to this certain individual who we're going to talk about in this video. As you can see from the title of the video today, we're going to talk about none other than Marcus Rashford. Marcus Rashford. We're going to quickly talk about so far how his loan spell has been, how I'm feeling so far with Marcus Rashford, his performances, overall performances, and, a little bit of my thoughts of maybe should we get him, maybe not. We'll see. A lot of talking points for sure when it comes to Marcus Rashford. Again, he's been doing well. Let's not get that twisted. He has been doing well. I might be a little bit deluded because on the right-hand side, we have a demon like Lamine Yamal. So I expect everyone to be at the same level as this guy, as this generational talent. But I can also understand that, for certain individuals, we have to play through the strengths. And not everyone's going to be a Lamine Yamal. Not everyone's going to be that kind of winger who just easily beats their players, easily influences the game by themselves. I can understand that, right? So I can understand for certain people, we can't expect those kind of things, right? But for Marcus Rashford, I just want a little bit more. I might be delusional. I might be sound crazy because he has been putting up good numbers. He's had some good performances, but I feel like I need a little bit more. But we'll talk about that. But before we get into all of that, if you guys haven't seen my last video, towards the end of the video, I thank you guys for 500 subscribers. And I want to say it one more time. Thank you guys so much for 500 subscribers. I really appreciate you, beautiful people, for subscribing, keeping up with the channel, supporting me since day one. I'd like to also thank my friends, everyone who has been supporting me in the making of this channel, making videos, sacrificing their time as well to help me out. Much appreciated. Much love to all you guys. Road to 1K coming up soon. But yeah, guys, you're all beautiful. I love you all. Thank you for that. But now let's get into the video. So Marcus Rashford. What a beauty. Somewhat beauty. But Marcus Rashford, as we all know, going into the summer, such a crisis, such a dilemma when it comes to we need a winger, we need a striker, we need a lot of things. And we all understood that this summer was pretty underwhelming. Hasn't been the best summer transfers, what we expected, how Barcelona to move going into this season. And Marcus Rashford was definitely one of those players who I was like, for those that watch my, videos on Marcus Rashford when we signed him, and I think even before the summer started, when we started first getting linked to Marcus Rashford, I gave my thoughts on potentially signing Marcus Rashford or getting him on loan, and I wasn't too happy about it. I was definitely a person that wasn't in favor of getting Marcus Rashford, considering his inconsistency in his performances, considering his attitude on and off the pitch. I wasn't a big fan. I was a fan of other players like a Nico Williams, even a Rafael Leao, who I think is a top-class winger, many other players, right? But Marcus Rashford definitely wasn't someone that I was like crazy about. But considering Barcelona's financial situation, considering other many factors, he was pretty much the only choice we had, because as we can see from this tweet right here, this tweet pretty much confirmed that he had no chance. We had no chance of signing other players. We first tried for Nico Williams, that didn't go through. Then we tried Luis Diaz, it didn't go through, and the last choice was Marcus Rashford, who of course agreed to come on loan, cutting his wages a little bit, but hey. He was practically the last option. I'm pretty sure this was already known for a long time now that he was our last option. There's just no way anyone really would have thought that he was going to be our first option. But we had to do what we had to do, because we needed to bring a player in, especially being a threat on the left-hand side, being a substitute for Rafinha, because I think we can all have agreed that Marcus Rashford was coming in to be a substitute. He really wasn't going to show signs of starting. And before the season started, I was thinking to myself, I don't really see him playing with Rafinha. I don't see where him and Rafinha can really fit in with each other, because Rafinha, we know that he last season was a demon playing on the left hand side, playing that left hand inverted role. While Marcus Rashford, where he's going to play then? He's going to play as a striker. I don't see them, him doing well playing as a striker. And we've seen him play as a striker in this game, in this season so far. It hasn't looked the best, right? So there were some doubts for sure, but I think the main thing for Marcus Rashford going to the season, that he was going to be a substitute. But so far this season, it really hasn't been that case because of the injury crisis that Barcelona has been suffering. And of course, one of the main injuries being Rafinha, him being out, means that Marcus Rashford had to be the one to fill in for his shoes, especially playing on the left-hand side, because we all saw that game against Levante where him, Lamine, Rafinha started, Ferran Torres started up top. It wasn't the best. They pretty much, it was non-existent. Rafinha was pretty much non-existent. Rashford didn't really perform the best either. It was a really confusing formation. I know that was something that was thrown out there by a lot of fans, that, hey, if we can get all these players working together, but I never saw it. I always thought that the number 10, it had to be either Dani Olmo or Fermin Lopez. Rafinha or Rashford had to either or one of them had to start. They both can't start together. That's just how I see it, and I still see it that way. I don't see these guys starting together. So when Rafinha does come back, there's going to be a lot of question marks for sure, right? Because Marcus Rashford, we can't lie, I can't lie, he has been doing well. He has been putting up numbers. He's been putting up some good performances. He's been stepping up so far this season to gaining some points, to getting some wins as well. So I can't lie and say, I can't sit here and lie that, he hasn't been doing well, right? He has been doing well. Have I been overly satisfied with his performances throughout a whole 90 minutes? No, not 100%. But I can also say that I have been satisfied with his certain moments where he does step up to influence the game for Barcelona for sure. So when Rafinha does come back, we'll have a conversation of, is Rafinha going to come back immediately and start? Does Flick maybe potentially see a way that they can start together? But also, you're also going to consider, we have to get Dani Olmo back to his level. We have to get Fermin Lopez into the team because of how he's performing as well. A lot of factors, and this is good to have. Depth is great to have for sure. But that'll be a situation later on in the season for sure that we can talk about, maybe in another video because we're in international break. But for Marcus Rashford, he's been stepping up. When we look at his numbers, looking at his numbers so far this season, he has been stepping up. At the beginning, again, he was a substitute. At the beginning, he was a substitute. Then, considering our injuries, he started playing. He started getting his minutes, started getting his moments, and he's been producing. I think the first game where he actually got a goal and assist was against. It was against PSG. Am I bugging? No, it was against Real Sociedad. Okay, yeah. Against Real Sociedad, he got an assist. Then against Real Oviedo, assist. Against Newcastle, 2 goals. What a performance that was. Valencia, assist. Who cares about that? And then after that, then we got PSG, assist. Sevilla, goal. Wales, who cares about that? Girona, nothing. Olympiacos, 2 goals. Real Madrid, an assist. Elche, a goal. Club Brugge. You don't think it's Club Brugge? Okay. Yeah, he didn't. And Celta Vigo, 2 assists. The recent game, 2 assists against Celta Vigo, where he pretty much for 3 of those goals had his fingertips all over them, influencing the game. So we can all come to concordance that Marcus Rashford does have his moments where he influences the game for us. But now, when it comes to a whole 90 minutes, I have my doubts. With him when it comes to his performances. Again, coming into the season, we all knew what he was capable of if you unlock Marcus Rashford. Can I really say that we have unlocked him so far this season? I think we're close to unlocking him. I think I'd say like a good 60%, because there's performances where, again, like against Celta Vigo, where he puts an incredible cross, where he just makes one little sprint and then boom, crosses into the box and gets, forces mistakes from the opponent to get a goal for us. Corner kicks as well. He has his moments. But then there's moments where I'm just like, we need a little bit more. I think one of the main criticisms so far with Marcus Rashford has been his pressing. His work rate off the ball. At times I can see that he does put in some effort. I see him at times that he does drop back and help defend, but there are times where he just walks around. That attitude that he had at Manchester United. The main criticism that a lot of Manchester United fans had towards him was his off-the-ball movements, his off-the-ball influence, where he would just look like a diva out there sometimes, where he just walk around, not help out, right? And we've seen that in moments when it comes to Barcelona. But again, that's also something that we can say about many of our other players, like Lamine, like Fermin, not Fermin, definitely not Fermin, like Lamine. We can say that you don't help out too much, right? But But then you look at their influence in individual aspect, like Lamine. All right, he's not helping out to press and defend, right? But you already know when he has the ball on his feet, he's going to influence the game majorly. He's gonna get something. He's gonna impact the game. With Marcus Rashford, sometimes you say like he loses the ball a little bit too easily. Sometimes he looks like he has no idea what ideas to do, and sometimes just passes it back and has other players do something because he really doesn't have an idea of what to do, right? So when it comes to those aspects, I expect a little bit more from Marcus Rashford. Again, my expectations might be too high because Lamine is just that kind of winger, that kind of take-on winger, that kind of skillful winger where he has many tricks up his sleeves to beat his defenders and cause problems. While Marcus Rashford, I feel at times is very one-dimensional. Either he cuts in and just takes a shot, or he just drives the ball forward and tries to beat the opponent for pace, right? Which again, it works at times where he does some impact, but at times it's just too predictable. At times it's just too easy to defend for some defenders, right? So that's when I expect a little bit more. I would also say that he hasn't had much help so far this season because the likes of Alejandro Balde has been missing a lot of games, and we all know that Jero Martin subbing in as a left back, he's not gonna help Rashford going forward. We know Jero Martin's influence going forward is nowhere near good enough. So he needed that partnership with Balde. That was something that I was very excited to see when Balde came back, is this partnership with Marcus Rashford and how much they're going to understand each other. Balde playing basically our left winger and Marcus Rashford having, the liberty to invert a little bit more, playing a little bit like the Rafinha role from last season and getting his shots off because we know he has a bullet on him. Again, just unlocking the best out of Marcus Rashford. We're going to see great goals. We're going to see crazy goals like we saw against Newcastle. We're going to see major goals from Marcus Rashford. So far I've seen specks of it when it comes to him and Balde so far, but we could definitely see a little bit more because I do see at times where they don't understand each other, but you can see that they're trying to understand each other on the pitch, and that eventually I think they're going to get better playing with each other, and I'm excited to see that even more because again, get that assist from Marcus Rashford, boom, he's going to do crazy things for you. Again, because he's just not a Lamine Yamal who can just control one side all himself, because we all know Lamine Yamal, he doesn't need Jules Koundé. He doesn't need Eric Garcia to help him throughout a whole 90 minutes because Lamine can just influence the game by himself. Especially considering Koundé's form this season, Lamine doesn't need that kind of help. But Marcus Rashford, I do see that he needs that kind of influence, right? But the main thing that I'm going to judge Marcus Rashford is I'm not going to judge him too much when it comes to the league because I do think that it's about adapting to the league. He comes from the Premier League. Now he's coming to a more tactical league, a more slow league compared to the Premier League. So when it comes to his overall performances in the league, at times I'm going to expect him to perform. At times I'm going to expect him to, have some influence. But I'm also not going to be like, wow, you can't play in the Liga. You can't do what Lamine does. You can't do, crazy things for us in a consistent basis in the league. I'm not going to fully judge him on that because it's about adapting. He'll need more than a season to really adapt. Even the likes of Kylian Mbappe. Kylian Mbappe put up many goals last season, but it's also a matter of it's not the same Kylian Mbappe that we saw at PSG, right? Where he would perform every single game and do amazing every single game, right? So I'm not going to fully judge him on league games, right? But when it comes to big games, Champions League nights, cup trophies, that's when I'm really going to judge him because we've seen Marcus Rashford step up in these kind of games. We've seen that he performs in these kind of games, that he has a major influence, and I want to see that for the crunch time of the season. That's when I'm really going to judge. I think, again, it's way too early to really say that, no, we can't sign him, we shouldn't sign him, or we should sign him, right? It's way too early, even with the GA that he's been having so far this season. But when it comes to the crunch time, that's when I'm really going to judge him. So far in the big games that we played this season, it's been against Newcastle, against PSG, and against Real Madrid. Against Newcastle, incredible performance. At times, he was a little bit quiet, but then when he got into the game, gets that beautiful header and gets that banger, which again, we know what he's capable of, right? He's capable of crazy things like that. So what a performance against Newcastle. Against PSG, he gets an assist, but come on, it wasn't good enough. Again, Barcelona weren't good enough either. But you would expect a little bit more from Marcus Rashford. And then against Real Madrid, again, he gets the assist, but no, non-existent either. In that game, we were just fully depending on Lamine to trying to do something for us, right? Again, Barcelona weren't the best. Again, it's just a matter of you also got to look at the team overall, right? But when you have these kind of great players who you expect great things of, you expect them to always have an influence. Again, Lamine hasn't been looking the greatest so far this season. Rafinha, even at the beginning, before injury, hasn't been looking the greatest. So it's not fair just to fully look at him, but the thing is that he's a lone player, right? He's alone. He's not here permanently like the other guys are. So with him, you're just looking at him a little bit more than the other players, right? At least that's just me, right? I would say at times we do have to try and play a little bit more through his strengths, because I see at times where when we have the ball, when we're controlling the ball, Marcus Rashford, he sprints, he makes those runs, but no one sees him. No one, makes that over the top. I don't know if they just think it's too risky. I don't know what it is. I don't know if they don't trust him. I don't know, or they just can't make the pass. They're definitely capable of making the pass, especially a player like Frankie De Jong. I saw against Celta Vigo, he would make some runs, but no one would feed him. No one would, play that over the top with him. And I think we should start doing that a little bit more. Start eyeing him when it comes to making those runs, because this guy is quick. He can bully players off the ball. We saw that one chance he get against Celta Vigo before they scored the first goal, where he can bully players off the ball. He's a very physical player. So that's something we definitely have to play through his strength with. And so we'll see how that improves throughout the whole to the rest of the season. But again, it's just more what I'm focusing more on is when he's on the ball, what he can do individually. Again, he has his moments, but I still need to see a little bit more, especially as a winger. That's just the expectations I have as a winger. I love those take-on wingers. I love those proper wingers, as I like to call them. Proper wingers. Again, we'll see. With crunch time, we'll fully judge Marcus Rashford. So far, he's been doing well. We'll see when it comes to when Rafinha comes back, if Marcus Rashford is going to get benched. I don't think he should. I think Rafinha should definitely earn his spot right now. And that's not to say that Rafinha, he must earn his spot because Rafinha is not good enough. It's because Marcus Rashford has been performing. Fermin has been performing. So we can't drop Fermin to put Rashford and Rafinha in the same team together right now. These players, there's certain individuals who have been performing. So it's either we sacrifice one or the other, or try to find something, new formation or something. You're trying to lock something from someone else, like Rafinha, I guess, can play a little bit more to the middle. I don't know. I don't see it, but that's what competition is, right? Marcus Rashford has been doing well. He's been putting up numbers. He's been performing. So he can't get benched right now when Rafinha does come back. Again, we'll talk about that later on. And again, we have a very long international break. But yeah, those are my thoughts so far with Marcus Rashford. When it comes to actually signing him, I'm like 40% right there. I'm like 40%. I'm not halfway. I'm not over halfway. I'm like 40% when it comes to actually signing Marcus Rashford right now. I'm getting there. I'm starting to like him. At first I had my doubts. I'm starting to like him. I'm starting to see that he has influence. Now I need to see at the crunch time. Again, especially against Chelsea. I expect him to perform against Chelsea. It's a Premier League team, so I want to see what he's capable of. But the second half of the season is what I'm really gonna. Can you play for FC Mother effing Barcelona? Because he understands what it means to play for the team. He must now, at least. So, we'll see. We'll see when it comes to him. But yeah, guys, that was the video for today. Let me know down in the comments how you guys are feeling with Marcus Rashford so far this season. Are you satisfied with his performances? Do you expect a little bit more like I do? Let me know down in the comments below. Make sure to like, subscribe, favorite, hit the notification bell for every single upload. Share your friends who love football. And I'll see you guys in this international break. I have some videos lined up. So stay tuned, mother effers. Love you. Take care and peace.